couldn't produce this podcast without our many sponsors. So at this time, let's take a listen to one of our amazing partners.
Welcome to Racing Girls Rock Podcast, presented by the Women's Motorsports Network. I'm Melinda Russell, the founder and CEO. I also founded the International Women's Motorsports Association and the Women's Motorsports Network News online magazine. Today's episode is brought to you by our official travel planner, Brittany Heisinger. Brittany specializes in Disney trips, but can book any trip, anywhere you want to go, from Hawaii to Houston, Alaska to Australia, or anywhere in between. Last year, she helped over 100 families plan magical vacations to Universal Studios, Disneyland and Disney World, Mount Rushmore, Las Vegas, Cabo, Hawaii, Aruba, and Iceland, to name a few. In just her first year since joining the Smart Moms Travel Group, she's won the Rising Star Award, the Top Paid Agent Award, and won a rewards trip. She hit her sales goal, joined Team Fantasyland at her agency, became a Walt Disney World pass holder and Magic Key holder, and more importantly, has made lifelong friends. You can connect to Brittany on Instagram at Travel with Zing or give her a call at 602-291-5144. Check out the show notes for more information and tell her Melinda sent you. And now it's time for this week's show.
Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with Women's Motorsports Network and Racing Girls Rock Podcast. My guest today is Mercedes Lilienthal. Mercedes and I met through someone else that I had connected to, and they said that I should talk to Mercedes and learn about her and her motorsports journey. And so that's what we're going to do today. So Mercedes, welcome to the show. And why don't we start by you just sharing a little bit about yourself, your family, where you live, whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, thank you so much, Melinda. I appreciate being on the show. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Background for me, it's quite varied. It's very different than a lot of other people. I grew up with German parents that emigrated from Germany. My dad was born in Yugoslavia, but he emigrated to Germany. And then in the 60s, my parents came over via job opportunity. He was a welder, blacksmith, and fabricator at the time, and he wanted to own his own business. And back then in Germany, you had to be an apprentice for a couple of years. And he said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work on automobiles and do what I need to do and do welding and everything in the land of opportunity. So my mother and my father basically moved in the 60s to Chicago with a sponsor at the time. They didn't know a word of English, but they made their way. And so fast forward, my sister was born and she's 6 years older than I am. I was born in 75. And we were born in the Midwest. She was in Chicago. I was in central Wisconsin, and they ended up making their own way. I mean, it was a lot of hardship, but there were some triumphs too. And they ended up having just the two of them with a welding fabricating shop in central Wisconsin. Just the two of them in a hoist. So as a kid, I was always around, just, kind of a shop rat, just hanging out after school or whatnot. And my dad always had different vehicles, whether they're, HD trucks, like heavy duty trucks, or, with snow plows or cranberry boggers, because Wisconsin at the time, and still they do a lot of cranberry implementation. All sorts of things. So I was always helping to just, tinker on things, whether it's helping cars at home, whether it's holding a flashlight or helping to touch up the paint, or just, hanging out while he's working on cars. So my background's always been in cars. I've always been in cars. And, fast forward to college, I loved the lowrider scene and the, import scene, and met my husband in 2000 on the way down to a lowrider show, or an import show, I should say, rather, down in Chicago. And so we've been together ever since, and he's a big gearhead as well. So although my background is mainly in imports and, lowriders and just customized type of vehicles, in 2006, we moved to Oregon, and he got a job in the off-road industry. And so we said, all right, let's buy our first 4x4. And at that time, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. And we bought a little, 1995 Suzuki Sidekick, that teal color. So if you look up the Teal Terror online, you'll be able to see everything about the build, and learned our way. And, I think, my husband and myself, we've kind of coined the phrase that we're all united by horsepower. And for me, it doesn't matter if it's lifted, lowered, customized, bone stock, EV, 4x4, whatever, what have you. It's all about the passion of it. And if you're an automotive enthusiast, just see where the world can take you, what that vehicle and that mode of transportation can take you.
That's a very interesting story. And the fact that your parents came here, knew no English, how brave they were to do that.
They were, and they moved in January. And back in the 60s, women wore dresses or they wear skirts and things like that. And so my mom learned very quickly when there's snow that equaled the sides of the cars or almost up to the roofs, as it was back in the day in Chicago. She learned very quickly what pants were. When they first came through, they actually came through Ellis Island. They didn't know how to ask for food, and they didn't know where to get food or how to say anything. And they found a hot dog street vendor on the side of the street, and they ate hot dogs for 3 days straight. And to this day, she won't even eat any more hot dogs.
Wow.
They made their way.
They made their way, and they wanted to come to the land of opportunity. And we don't often think about people that see America like that because we take it for granted, don't we?
Right.
We were
To
born
some degree,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
in a lot of ways we do, because we have all these opportunities at our fingertips, and we often forget, unless we're reminded of it, but in some way, that we are very lucky. We do have a lot of options, and to be able to be women and involved in some kind of motorsports. We're recording this on 2/2/22, by the way.
Right. I just noticed that.
And I also see that today is National Women in Sports Day or something like that. So
Oh, cool.
that's a kind of cool day that we could be recording a podcast. So
It is.
yeah. So Mercedes, tell me, what are you involved in now as far as motorsports?
Oh gosh, what am I not involved in?
Right, exactly.
I am, so to preface that a little bit, when we moved to Oregon at that time, I had graduated from college. I put myself through college after my father died in 98, and I went to school for interior design. And so I was a commercial interior designer and project manager for many years. When I decided that I needed a change in my life. I wanted to feel fulfilled in ways that I wasn't feeling like I was being, I was happy and I was getting what I wanted to learn and just where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. And so pun intended, I switched gears and decided to become full-time freelance. And with that is a whole host of different opportunities and also challenges. And to me now, I'm an automotive journalist, and I also do various PR and marketing efforts for automotive clients. So it's 99.9% all automotive related on the work front of it. But then I also do some, major off-road rallies or on-road rallies, both with my husband or with other women. So I've been doing that for the last couple of years. So whether I'm competing or covering it as media, I've got my hands full in a lot of different rallies and time speed distance competitions and things like that as well.
Yeah, so that's how we got connected. Somebody told me that you were racing in a rally. And
Nice.
so why don't you tell me a little bit about that and what it involves? And like, sometimes you do it with your husband as a co-driver, I assume, or whatever. For people who don't know anything about rally racing, and I don't know a lot about it, educate us. Tell us about it.
Gosh, how much time do you have?
Not more than an hour, because
right. That's total fun.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, there's all different kinds of rallying. The rallying that I like to compete in isn't necessarily a rally race. It's a rally against time. So specifically, there's time, speed, distance rallies. So you have to be at speed, on time, go in the right directions because they have a route book. So you all have you don't necessarily have a map or GPS. It might be all traditional with just what your car has for an odometer. And you have to say, all right, 0.23, miles, turn left onto whatever, and go 37 miles per hour or what, what have you. So, whether it's the Alcan 5000 rally, which has been around since the 80s, my husband and I have done that twice. we took a 1991 Mitsubishi Pajero right-hand drive diesel all the way up to the Arctic Ocean in the middle of the winter. And that was almost, that was over 5,000 miles. I think by the time we were said and done with the competition, it was a little over 5,100 miles in the
Wow.
winter. He was the driver and I was the co-driver, so I was the navigator. The rally, that same Alcan 5000 rally, the summer version is coming up this August. So even though it's not formally announced, we will be competing in that as well. Again, him as the driver and me as the co-driver. But I also drive. So I do rallies as a driver and then I have a navigator. So I've done a couple of major competitions. They're called the Rebelle Rally. I've competed in 2018 as a privateer, and then in 2021 on behalf of Volkswagen of America. The Rebelle Rally is unique in the fact that it is all women and is traditional navigation. So there's no GPS, no laptops, no tablets. They're all confiscated, taped up to, the point where it takes you 20 minutes to untape them because you're not allowed to use them. You use a map and compass and then a route book. So it's a very challenging competition because not only do you have to have a navigator that knows where she's going and how to take certain headings with a compass, and you as yourself as a driver too should know that. It's all off-road. So you're in California and Nevada and you do about 14 to 1,500 miles and you're in 8 days together, 7 days of competition with just the two of you. So you got to like each other, whether it's your husband or your teammate of any sort. You're stuck in a steel box together with multiple thousands of miles. So it can be a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. It's very enriching, but it's also very challenging.
So let me ask you this, a couple things. So when it's you and your husband, you're the navigator.
Mm-hmm.
Is he patient about if you're not sure, or do you get a chance to see the route and everything ahead of time to kind of learn it, or they just give it to you the day that you start the race?
That's a great competition, or a great question about the competition. For the Alcan 5000 rally, they have it's like a plastic, spiral bound book, and it literally is a book. It's about half an inch thick. And, it's 5,120 miles of, point by point turns and directions and how long you need to, go and when you need to have your TSD, your time, speed, distance sub rally within this competition. So in that particular rally, you might have a morning TSD. So, maybe 20 or 30 miles of you have to be timed on point, en route, certain speeds, and get to that absolute closest, most perfect time as you can. But then you might have a transit of 400 miles to get to an afternoon competition. So it's a very different, interesting, a set of requirements. And my husband's awesome. He's a great listener. He's a great person to understand, okay, if I have so much in my head going on all at the same time, and if I might start getting flustered, he's great about saying, okay, step back, let's slow down, let's stop before we keep on going if we don't know where we're going, and let's kind of reconfigure. There are points where sometimes it gets, a little bit heated per se as to, oh gosh, we went the wrong way, we got to go this and this and reconfigure and figure everything out. But that is with any race,
Right.
or any rally or any competition. I actually am wearing a leather bracelet that he had made for Christmas, and it says, remember the pinky swear. And I love this so much because with Andy and me, and I've now done it for the Rebelle Rally with my competitor Emily and myself, I pinky swear in the beginning of every day of major competition, because to me, it's all about good communication, compromise, staying calm, and just being cool and collected. And so if we try to keep remembering that, we do a pretty good job being a team together. And we haven't killed each other yet. And I don't plan to, so
No,
we'll
hopefully
do it all
not.
together.
So, but you don't get that book of instructions till you start the race?
Right. Usually, it depends. I mean, with the Rebelle Rally, the navigators, they have to take a plotter and their map rulers and plot out certain checkpoints to be able to get. And they get those. It could be a set of maps during that day. It could be 2 sets of maps for the next 2 days. But usually you don't see them until you're right there. I've done some local time, speed, distance rallies where they will email you the route book where, you could, I guess, theoretically go out earlier and just run the route and see where the traps are, because sometimes they'll try to trick you and trap you into going the wrong direction. But, for the major ones that I've done in my past, they've usually just said, all right, here's a book, go.
Exactly. So you said something about, if I caught it right, that you have to go, like it might say in the book, go half a mile at 37 miles per hour. So
Right.
is that right? It tells you how far to go, what speed to go, and then there's a there's a certain time, like 2 p.m., and you want to get as close to that time, to that point, as you can.
Basically, yes. So you have the certain speed that you need to go, a certain distance you need to go before your next directional change. So, for instance, they might say turn right at 0.23 miles or kilometers. We run them in either kilometers or miles, depending on the rally. So, 0.23 miles, turn left onto Smith Road, then change your cast, which is change average speed to 23 miles per hour. And then you keep doing that, and you have to keep trying to figure out, okay, you have to slow down to turn, but you got to speed back up to try to catch up because you slowed down there. And then depending on what number car you are out, let's say if all the cars start at 8 a.m., first car's out at 8 o'clock, maybe the second car, if they stage them every 2 minutes, is out at 8:02, then 8:04, then 8:06. So let's say if you're car 26, you have to add on 26 minutes to each start of when that is. So then you actually start at 8:26. So if it says you arrive at, bunker number 5, I don't know, but at this place at 10 o'clock, well, your arrival for your exact car is 10:26.
Wow. So you've got to really have somebody who's good at math, who's calm, and who is not directionally challenged. My husband
That's
could never
ideal.
be, he could never be the navigator. I mean, we tried yesterday to go find some trails here, close to the RV park, and he thought he knew right where he was going. And I finally Googled it, and I'm like, Mark, we went completely the wrong direction, and
Oh,
it's not far from the house. And so he drives and I navigate. And so
and
that's how it
right.
works here.
Right. Yeah, that's very similar to Andy and myself. He is an excellent driver. I trust him with my life, on road, off road, ice, snow, mud, whatever it is. He's an excellent driver, and he always has been. And he's learned so many great off road skills. In '06, when he got the job as in the off road industry, he works for a company called Warren Industries, which Warren makes premium winches. If you know what truck winches are, with a spool of cable, whether it's synthetic or
Yeah.
wire rope, hubs, aftermarket bumpers, all sorts of stuff. So that's where he learned how to do it all. He had to learn how to do it all because he's in the PR department. He's one of the marketing managers. So yeah, you have to be out there with the media, with clients, with customers, and you got to teach winching classes and all that type of stuff. And through that, he's got such a great base of expertise for all different types of terrain. So whether it's slick rocks of Moab, or the Arctic snow that's negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's really weird snow compared to Midwest or even Oregon snow if we get it sometimes. So yeah, so he's a great driver, and I don't necessarily say I'm an awesome navigator. I navigate, but I think it's a great pairing. And as far as the Rebelle Rally and some other competitions with me as a driver, I think, yes, it definitely helps to have somebody that is directionally exceptional. But it's also very important to have somebody that can get along with you very well. So that can understand when you're starting to get frustrated, when you're hungry, if you're tired, if you're really happy, or just if you need to just take a chill for a second, because that is almost even more important. Because if you're doing a 5,000-mile rally, a 1,400-mile off-road rally, or any of these more extensive competitions, then having somebody that you have great camaraderie with is definitely key.
Oh yeah, because that's just a stressful situation on a normal day. If you're traveling and there's traffic and there's
Right.
some, if it's not just a leisurely drive, then there's some stress involved no matter what. So that's really interesting. I knew about the Rebel or Rebel. Do you call it Rebel?
It's Rebelle. Yeah. Some people
Okay.
think that it's Rebel, but I think it's the play on that. So it's Rebelle, Rebelle. So it's the Rebelle Rally.
Yeah. So I had heard of that before and knew there were some, knew it was a women's thing. I had never had a chance to talk to anyone about it. So this is pretty interesting for me. So where typically, if you're going to do a 1,500-mile competition, it's through the desert, it's through woods. What kind of terrain are we talking?
It can be varied. It depends. For the Rebel Rally, Emily Miller is the owner and the manager of the entire rally. This is her baby. She works very closely with the BLM and all sorts of local jurisdictions and offices to make sure that everything's permitted. We never know where the rally takes us, but it's typically in the Nevada and California deserts, and then we end in Glamis Sand Dunes.
Oh,
Where
awesome.
the old Star Wars was filmed with the crazy sand dune scene. So,
Yeah.
um, so typically that's where it has been. It's been going on for about 6 years, but we never know where it takes us. I don't. And we've had some areas. When I competed in 2018, I remember there was some areas that were somewhat wooded, and you went all the way up high, up into these hills, and there was a guy that was on horseback that was herding several hundred sheep, and you had to stop for sheep. And but you just never know what you're going to see. So
Right.
she always likes to make it a surprise, and Emily does a really good job, and course director too, and everybody that's in tune with the route itself do a really good job of taking you past some pretty spectacular scenes if you're in the right direction, if you're going on time and on course.
Yeah. So what do you do about spending the night?
So that all depends. If it's the Alcan 5000 rally, they do have motels. The Alcan 5000 is set up kind of like the Olympics. So it's every 2 years is the winter rally, then every 2 years is the summer rally, et cetera, et cetera. In the winter, obviously, they don't want anybody to die because
No.
we didn't see it on a screen, but one of the guys that was in a Jeep said it was negative 43 Fahrenheit on his little reader that could barely work in his Jeep. So it got dang cold. But when it was to that point, they have motels that are set up, but they also require for you to bring things if you have to be sleeping in your vehicle overnight. There can be blizzards. We've driven through them, in the Arctic. There could be all sorts of situations, mechanical failures, what have you. Lucky enough with our Pajero, our diesel that was never sold here in the States, we did a lot of extensive prep and we had no mechanical issues. We didn't have, we did it right, but we still had our 20-degree bags. We still had our stove that ran on diesel fuel because, regular fuel would, like a little Coleman, thing that would freeze up. So, and we had all sorts of other things just in case, God forbid, we got stuck in our vehicle for multiple hours or even overnight. So the Rebel Rally is a little bit different. They do tents. So you're basically out there tenting it in the wind, in whatever it is. You do have one night that is overnight away from a big, massive base camp where everybody usually huddles, and that's called the marathon stage. So basically the teams, once they arrive at where they think it is that they're supposed to be at, then they set up basically their camp right next to their vehicle, and they sleep with their vehicle or just, next to the other teams that are there.
Okay. So have you ever gotten like so off track that you were nowhere near where you were supposed to be, or are you most of the time close to the route and haven't gotten really like way off track?
We've been all the competitions that I've done, we've been pretty good about being pretty close. There was a little bit of touch and go in 2018 as a privateer. I was with my teammate Elise at the time, and I was driving her husband's Toyota Tacoma truck. And we were along this road. I coined it the Death Canal Road. I did an interesting article via drivingline.com for that piece. And it was this road that was undulating and it was half washed out. And there were bombing range signs that were all to the right. And we all knew, I mean, a lot of the times it flanks, what is it? Is it 29 Palms, 23 Palms? I can't remember the name.
I'm not sure.
Different bombing ranges and stuff that are out, in the middle of nowhere. And then there was a road sign that was in the middle of the road that said, "Do not pass, do not go beyond. This is active bombing range." And we're like, we were the first ones on site, and we stopped. We didn't know, should we go? Should we, this could be a big issue. And people have, unfortunately, had been called back to get off of that range because they've turned wrong and they've accidentally gone on. And long story very short is there were a few other rebels that they were then behind us and this, and some said, all right, screw it, I'm not going to waste any more time. Clock's ticking to get to these checkpoints, because it's all about getting the points at each checkpoint, and the most points wins. And we decided to stay because we didn't want to get in trouble. But, it turns out that we could have kept on going. And they said, we could have called on the satellite phone at that point and said, hey, we think that we're in the right route. Is this okay? This is what we're having as an issue, and not have any penalty docked for it. But you live and you learn. So
Yeah.
I think that was probably the more stressful times, was just not sure if you're ready to head into a live bombing range.
Yeah, that would be a little scary for sure. So
Right.
what's been the most favorite one that you've done where you've gone?
Oh gosh, it's really hard to say because everyone is so different and everyone is so unique. I've got favorite parts of every one of them.
Okay.
If I had to say one of them right off the top of my head, the Alcan 5000 with my husband, with a crazy old diesel Pajero that was never sold in the United States. You know, saying yes, okay, we're going to be able to do this, and we're going to do it, and we're going to go all the way up to the tippy top of Tuktoyaktuk in the Arctic Ocean and see it and finish this rally, which was almost 6,000 miles. It was like 5,100 miles or so, and succeed in it. And we were the tribute vehicle to the legendary Rod Hall racer. The Rod Hall had competed in a Dodge Raider, which is very similar. It's like a cousin of the Pajero, back in, I believe, 86. And the rally owner, Jerry Hines, had said, hey, this is coming up. It's a winter rally. He did all of the extremes with his Dodge Raider, that Dodge put him in, and we want you to be a tribute vehicle. And we said, well, yeah, for sure. Yes. I mean, I never had a chance to meet Rod Hall in person, nor did my husband, Andy, but Emily Miller, the owner of the Rebel Rally, and another dear friend of mine, Sue Mead, who was also just legendary racer, legendary journalist. She's been doing it for over 35 years. They both were taught by him.
Okay.
And so when we accepted that, it was an extra challenge because we're like, okay, we really can't break down now.
Yeah.
But it was such an honor to be a tribute vehicle and to do all the, we successfully did all of the alternate extremes or the optional extremes. We drove all the way up to Coldfoot when everybody else went to the hot springs in I think it was Fairbanks. We went all the way up to Coldfoot because that's where they said to go. And we drove, it was crazy, very treacherous driving conditions. We went all the way up there, did that extreme, came all the way back down and did everything else. And we succeeded.
Yeah.
And
what great memories you have from all of that.
Right.
I'm sure the scenery and everything has to be just amazing.
It is. Yeah. It's, for that trip, we saw, my gosh, my first caribou. We saw these, I can't remember the name of the birds, these crazy Arctic birds. We saw moose. We almost hit a moose. We saw all sorts of different things. We literally almost hit a wolf, the biggest wolf I've ever seen in my life. I was in the middle of the road playing, and one of the guys radioed down saying, hey, just FYI, wherever mileage marker that's in our route book, he said there was a wolf that they saw. And it was right in the middle of the road in the blind corner when Andy and I, we don't have ABS. So he, was trying to steer clear of it and locked it up. And we're just kind of skidding sideways towards it. And it just went boop, 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 and just, jumped right off into the distance. But yeah, the scenery, just seeing encrusted, snow-filled trees and driving past the middle of the nowhere, 300 miles with nobody else around, and then seeing one of those construction machines, those diggers, just sitting there idling with its lights on in the middle of the side of the road, just sitting there on because they can't shut it off, because if they shut it off, they can't turn it back on again.
Right.
Or the Rebel Rally, the Rebel Rally, we saw some really amazing scenery too, a lot of desert scapes that are just forever singed in my brain. And especially with partnering with VW, we had the chance to drive their all-wheel drive brand new ID4, which is an all-electric vehicle.
Nice.
So it was really interesting to combine such beautiful scenery with an all-electric car. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think that's forever burned in my memory, because we were basically made history as the first all-electric crossover to complete the competition, but to just not hear any sound and then see everything and just hear the crunching of the dirt underneath, and the wind that's kind of whipping, across your windscreen as your windows roll down, and the crunch of just everything, it's the rocks, and it was a really interesting dynamic. And I hope that I can compete again in an EV, because I found out after doing a lot of research and everything, I'm one of the first few that really have done EV off-roading. The Rivian team has done it for 2 years now with a prototype Rivian. The first year in 2020, they competed with the very first Rivian that came off the line, the very first prototype. This year they had a near production ready late stage prototype. So, and they've done great. Emmy Hall's a seasoned racer and rallyer too, and she's won the competition a few times before. So other than that, in the ID4 with Nora, with that rally, and then that was a rear wheel drive variant, and then the all wheel drive variant with us in the Rebelle, there hasn't been very many other people. I mean, you've got other more extreme competitions. So of course, like with Audi and Dakar and stuff like that, but that's like way beyond what we're kind of running here with either stock or somewhat modified vehicles. So
Right.
but it's coming. So the whole EV off-roading and everything, it's combined with the scenery, that just takes it to a whole nother dimension.
Well, it reminds me of riding a motorcycle versus a car. So my husband's been a motorcyclist since he was a kid. And so when you ride on a motorcycle out through the country, you can smell the corn, and you can hear all the things that you don't notice when you're in a car necessarily. And so when it's quiet and you're not distracted by the sound of your vehicle, you do hear the crunching of the snow and the wind and everything. And I would think that's just an amazing experience.
Yeah. My husband and myself, Andy and I talk a lot about travel and a lot about who you meet on the road and the experiences. And we're fortunate that we're able to work in the industry that can afford us those types of experiences.
Yeah.
And he just said it best the other day. He said he has a lot of thanks to his mother that said, you know what, we're going to take road trips, because if you fly, you don't see any of it. You don't see how people live. You don't see the geography or the different house styles or food that you taste or any of that type of stuff. So, we constantly try to push our limits, and where you go backwards or sideways or fail miserably, it's all part of it. But and I think for me, I really appreciate being able to write about that. And I write for a whole host of different publications, whether it's the New York Times or Forbes Wheels or Tread Magazine, AutoWise. I mean, there's a bunch of different outlets that I write for, but a lot of it is hopefully experiential and inspirational. And especially talking about women within the industry and people that are making a difference. And so I'm hoping that any of these types of experiences that I have with Andy or, Rebelle or just myself, or some of the challenges, some of the many challenges that I've faced, hopefully that can give positivity to somebody and make them think about, hey, maybe I could do something, no matter what it may be.
Well, and that's the point a lot of times of what I want to do is I want to share things that you're doing that women may not know about or may not have heard of, or after they hear your story, they may think, oh, this is something I would like to try, or I think I can do that, even if you're the navigator or you're on the team or whatever it might be. So that's why I love interviewing women who are doing something different, to encourage other women to check it out, see what you could do.
And I love that, Melinda. I think that that's so important. And I've fed off of so many other people's energy and their experiences, because I didn't know, hey, oh my gosh, so-and-so is doing X and I need to be involved in that, whether I'm volunteering or on some sort of a crew or covering it for an article or something. That's, I think, how a lot of my life morphs into what it is now, and hopefully what it does for the future. I think just having enough humility to say, you know what, I might fail along the way, and I have a lot of trouble and a lot of long hours and this, but you know what, let me just try to keep, pulling myself up by the bootstraps, if that's the right phrase. I always say all the phrases wrong because of course, first generation German, but or American, but just kind of pulling yourself up and finding those people that are willing to support you no matter what your whatever may be, on-road, off-road, racing, drifting, just anything, motorcycling, any of that type of stuff. I've got a really interesting article with the New York Times that's going to drop in a couple of days, and I'm excited to share it because I can't really talk about it yet. It hasn't published yet, but keep watching, on my social day and Friday. And it talks about two women, very different walks of life, same passion. And it's just a really dynamic article, and it inspires me. And it's those types of things and the people I meet inspire me. And I think that that's such a neat thing. And it's just good karma. It's just good energy. And, to me, if I can help make somebody's life a little bit different, a little bit better, and maybe unexpected in a good way, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mercedes, tell me now about your writing. Is there somewhere that like we could follow? Like after you publish an article, let's say the New York Times, how would I know that you did that? Is there someplace I can go to follow you?
Yeah, so my name is a little bit challenging to spell, but one of the best ways to find me is via either LinkedIn is a good way, but Instagram. I have what is called a link in bio that is a little active link that's on the top of my Instagram page. And that basically takes me to, I link every story to every photo in that area.
Okay.
So my Instagram is my name. So it's MERCEDES _ and then my last name, which is LILIENTHAL. So Mercedes _ Lilienthal. And that'll take you, and I don't post everything, but that'll take you to link in bio, which then you can see anything that I do share out. And a lot of the times it's, the Times or Auto Conduct or AutoWise or Forbes or Car and Driver, those types of things.
Okay. All right. Sounds good because I want to start following and reading your articles. I think that's going to be fun and hopefully being able to share those too.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's going to be interesting because I love to write. Excuse me. And so reading other people's is just as interesting and fun to me as anything. So tell me, do you prefer to navigate or drive?
Oh gosh, nobody's ever asked me that. That's a hard question. I guess it depends on what it is. If it's traditional navigation, map and compass, I would definitely say drive. I'm not the best. I'm slow at taking compass readings and learning how to plot and all of that type of stuff. It really takes good eyeballs and the know-how, and I just am not there yet. I don't feel like I'm there yet. I have enough to be able to get the job done, but it'll take me a long while. And the name of speed as far as efficiency is very important for the Rebelle Rally. So with the Rebelle, I mean, I've driven it twice. I've covered it as media twice. I've done on-site in 2019, and 2020 was remotely due to COVID. But I've been writing and participating in that rally since 2018, essentially. When it comes to the Alcan 5000 rally, I mean, if I'm with my husband, he's such an awesome driver that it works best when he drives and I navigate. And it's just, to me, it's a good team. He doesn't do well when he reads in the cars. He's one of those that just gets sick pretty easily. So it's a good fit, and it works well. And I think whatever works well and however you feel the most dialed in is what's important. So that's what works for me.
Yeah. So Mercedes, tell me about the rewards at the end of the race. Is it money? Is it trophies? Is it notoriety? Is it the pride of saying I did this and I won? Tell me about that.
So for the Rebelle Rally, they do hand out trophies for first, second, and third place, whether it's X Cross class, which is a crossover class, or the 4-wheel drive class. They also do have like a Bone Stock Award or International Cup or things like that, where those are auxiliary segments, but they do also have awards for those. There are charity opportunities, and I don't quote me, but I think it's only certain, if it's a Spirit Award or something like that, there's certain segments that if you do get an award, that X amount of money goes to a certain charity that you allocate. I don't know exactly about that. I'm sure you can find more information on rebellerally.com. But it is, bragging rights. So there isn't a cash purse, so to speak, as far as the teams. I think the top teams do get entry into the following rally, the next year's rally, or most of it paid for the next year's rally. Regarding the Alcan 5000 rally, we took second out of 2 people in the historical class, but hey, second.
That's right.
We also did, we got the finisher awards. We also got the Go Farther award, which is a coveted one, because that, and the Arctic award, because we did all of the additional optional extreme challenges for driving. So whether that was driving all the way up to Tuktoyaktuk and back down from Inuvik, or another one was, I think it was 146 miles of a legitimate ice road driving and back. And that was just a world on its own. I could talk about that for an hour, that one experience. But so they have plaques. They have really awesome plaques. They had a big polar bear and it said 2020 Alcan 5000 Rally on it. And but yeah, for us, we got those awards, which we were very humbled and appreciative to receive. I think the rest of it is pretty much bragging rights. To say if you're able to even compete and complete the thing is major bragging right for that. So
yeah. So is there a rally that's on your bucket list?
there are a few of them. It's sometimes it's a challenge. I'd love to compete in them, but I'd also love to cover them as media. So I've yet to get to Mexico to see anything like Nora, Sonora, or the Baja 1000, or any of those. Not necessarily to drive or to compete, because that's serious, like that's serious racing down there. But maybe to run a chase team, or to be on somebody's media team, or somebody's team as their media personnel, to be able to help cover them in the event. I'd love to do that. And same with Dakar Rally overseas in Saudi. I mean, we had friends of ours, Sumid, the gal I was just telling you about. She was team manager of Amy Lerner, and Sarah, and I'm going to butcher her last name. I think it's Bossanet. And that's her teammate from overseas. Amy Lerner also actually was taught by Rod Hall. This is all coming back to like one central person, and that's Rod Hall. Amy Lerner's got a movie about Rod Hall that literally, I believe, last week or two just got released. And I believe it's called One More Win. Actually, let me look at that because I want to make sure I say that right.
All right. Yeah, Sue Mead, I believe, is who mentioned you to me.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, it is One More Win. So that is Amy Lerner's take, and her baby, her documentary and her movie that she made about Rod Hall. And again, he's touched so many people's lives and so many women's lives that are now racers and are doing some awesome things. And so I have not seen the movie yet myself. But I think as far as Amy Lerner, she's so talented. She did the second Dakar. She did great. My article actually in Forbes Wheels should be coming out here any day. So I'll be talking a little bit more about her placement and how she and Sarah did even that much better in her Porsche. She's got a vintage Porsche that she was rallying. And so actually it was oh gosh, I'd have to pull up my notes. I think it was like an 80s something Porsche that she ran. Okay. And so, yeah, gosh, talk about dedication and guts to do something like that. They ran the classic car class, or the classic class. And so it's all, gosh, I should have had that article right up here.
That's okay.
I think
that'll give us a reason to read it.
Right. It's the classic class. And that was just formed last year for per Dakar. And I want to say don't quote me, either pre-1984 or 1982 vehicles. So so they are very much more of a regularity type rally, where it is kind of like a TSD versus going fast, hard, as crazy as you can go for the finish line. So it's very much more like a TSD type of a situation. So, again, I would love to be able to get together with some team or something like that and go over to Dakar and be able to shoot that per photography and also cover that as media. So those are at least two. I've got more in the works, something that I can't announce yet, but there's something happening in June that I am very excited about. That is also something major, but I just can't talk about it quite yet.
All right. Well, you'll have to send me a note. Let me promote it and announce it and stuff when you get it going, because I love to share what you're doing. Love to share what you're doing. Yeah.
We'll do for sure. Yeah, we can definitely link up on all the different social media and all that good stuff. I'll be announcing here hopefully in the next couple of weeks on that.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, Mercedes, this has been so interesting. You've taught me so much about rallies, rally racing, whatever we want to call it, rally and time, speed, and distance. It's really interesting. And I think it's something that women should learn more about, and if they have some interest in. I love that you end up in Glamis. One thing I wanted to ask you was, so when you race, like if you did the Rebelle, and do you know where you're going to end up, or you don't?
You don't. You never know where you're going to end up or where base camp is until your navigator plots it out on the map. and says, okay, I think we're going this way. And usually the green checkpoints and base camp are noted to help you along, to make sure, because they don't want anybody to deviate too far off the intended path.
Right.
But when you're down in Glamis, I mean, everything's pretty much secret. So the course, you just, once you get the maps and the navigator starts plotting those points, is when you figure out where you are. And I
So
still don't know where I am.
I have a
'Cause as
funny story
driver-
for you about Glamis. So my husband, we have a dune buggy back at home in Michigan, and so my husband, we went to California on a trip, and he said, I want to go to Glamis on the way back to Arizona. So we did our little jog, and he wanted to go to the Glamis store, which took us a little bit to find, and it is out in the middle of nowhere, and it's run on generators, and it was really interesting. But as we were traveling through the sand dunes of Glamis on that little 2-lane road,
Yes, the highway.
there's nobody around us anywhere as far as you can see. We were driving my daughter's van, and we're driving down the road, and all of a sudden there was this like boom, and we literally thought the car had exploded.
Oh no.
And out the front window we see a jet, like
Yeah,
a jet.
Yes.
And they were literally right over the top of us. I mean, wow. It was so like scary and then exciting. And they went over us, and then they kind of tipped their wings at us.
Yeah.
And I said, I bet they thought that was a family in that van, and they were gonna scare them or show them or whatever. But but we have to laugh about going to Glamis. We did find a store. We got the t-shirt, and then we had the crap scared out of us by the airplane. But now we're in Surprise, Arizona for the winter, and we are close to Luke Air Force Base. And so I'm not sure if they're F-22s or what they are, but they're the ones that come to the racetrack in the formation, and then
right.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And we love being here and hearing those planes go over and practice. It's just awesome. But
that's cool.
I've been to Glamis, but what I wondered was, if I knew that the Rebelle was going to end in Glamis or somewhere where I could come, I would be there at the end, and then I could see all the women, and that would be fun for me to be able to do that. So I'm gonna have to check into that.
Yeah, that's you bring up a couple of good points. So for the Rebelle Rally, and especially due to COVID, they used to finish in San Diego. And we'd be right on the waterfront, where they would have all the vehicles on display, and the public could come and see and all of that. I mean, this isn't really a public event, so the public can't really follow, other than being online. They have trackers on each car, so you can see how the different cars go, and you can kind of see where they're at and where the checkpoints are too. So as a person at home, you could definitely see online. Now, because of COVID, they kept the base camp and the finish in Glamis, but they've basically said it's only, I don't even know if like Direct Family went. I mean, I think Direct Family, some went this year, but last year it was pretty much just the teammates and some of the sponsors and the crew. And so it was very, very close knit because of COVID. So those types of things have changed. But yeah, we used to have it in San Diego. So in 2018, it was pretty cool. You're rolling in mud from head to toe and like dirt, and just, you're disgusting because you haven't showered in like 8 days. I might not have ever showered on the rally, but and you're just like encrusted and crazy, but you're there, and then all of these people just come and check them all out. And whether you've got duct tape on your rear fascia, or you've got a broken axle that's welded with whatever you have, or something like that. I mean, it's carnage and all. It used to be right there. So,
well, that's cool. I'm going to have to check that out more, and check with the owner and everything for the future, and see if there's a way to cover that somehow, because that would be really cool to do that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can check out rebellerally.com. That's REBELLE.com, or rebellerally.com.
Yeah.
And the owner is Emily Miller. So I think they might have, you can either do that or go on social media, and you can reach out to them via direct messages. I know that they're pretty good about getting back to anybody and everybody. You always just reach out and say who you are, and say that, you want to try to cover this event and what's it all about. And they're great about talking to everybody.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. Well, Mercedes, is there anything I know there's a lot you could talk about, but is there anything really obvious that I've missed today asking you about? And maybe we should schedule another podcast to cover something else at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Not anything at all that you've missed, but I think there's something that I'd like to say. To me, I don't know if anybody knows that what their path is, or even what their true path is, or even intended. There are so many people that are my champions, that are people I admire and that I get so much inspiration from, whether it's my mom, my husband, friends and family, and people that are total strangers that I follow their path. Without that, nobody's got anything. And without the desire to have persistence, perseverance, and just, I guess, guts or stupidity, one or both, to try something new and put yourself out of your comfort zone. And I still am afraid of failure to some degree, but for me, it's like, you know what, I've learned so much through my failures and through challenges to keep pushing on, and I learn that much more, and it makes me stronger. And to figure out, what works, what doesn't work, and your path that you're trying to take to get to, Z might take you backwards, sideways, loop-de-loops and all over the place, but eventually you might make it to Z, or you might make it to X spot, but you might think that, oh my God, X is like where you really want to be in life, but you just never knew because you were trying to have your trajectory to Z. So I don't know why I've got all of this like algebra stuff going on in my brain.
I don't know, but
it's
you're so right. And it's funny. My son-in-law is a baseball he trains baseball pitchers. He was a baseball pitcher. And we just had a conversation last night about finding our passion.
cool.
And he works long days. He works 6-7 days a week. He owns his own business, which is not always easy.
Right.
And yet he, like last night I was at their house. I'm going to be babysitting the next couple of days. My daughter's birthday's coming up, so he's taking her to Disneyland.
Oh, fun.
She is a Disney travel expert. She does all kinds of travel agent things, but Disney is her expertise and her passion.
Oh, fun.
And so he took some days off to take her there, but we were talking last night. He got home at 11 o'clock. I don't know what time he went to work, but it was in the morning. And I said, John, are you tired? He said, no. He said, I love what I do.
That's awesome.
And he said, I really I haven't hit that yet, and so I love seeing that. And he said, we were talking about, I have that for motorsports, especially for women in motorsports. You have that for what you do. And if you'd have asked me 10 years ago if this is what I'd be doing, I would have shaken my head and said, are you crazy? And
Same with me.
So we never know where our path's going to lead. But then when I look back and I look at different things that I've done, or, I owned a weekly newspaper for 10 years. That prepared me for my digital magazine and for my interviewing for the podcast, and just the different things that I like to do or that I've done in the past have given me the experience and things to do what I'm doing now. But I would have never dreamed that this is what I'd be doing. And
that's so well said, Melinda. I absolutely, I hold that type of truth to my heart, because I never, for me, little old small town girl that grew up in an unincorporated town in central Wisconsin, never in a million years would have thought that, I'd be doing what I'm doing now. But it took me a near 20-year career in commercial interior design and project management for me to realize, oh, wait a second, I have a lot of creativity, but I'm also very analytical, which I both hate and love that about me. I'm detailed and analytical, but I never realized I could be creative with interior spaces and, be holistic in that manner, but then transfer a lot of those skills to words and cars and be creative with my writing. I just, it never, I'm 46 right now. And it took me until actually very recently to realize that, I can still feed the insatiable need of wanting to learn and wanting to be creative, but still try to make a difference in however I can, and organically have that happen in a manner I never would have expected.
Right.
And sometimes it might hit somebody at age 15. It might hit somebody at age 82. We just don't know. It's just the I guess the openness of allowing yourself to try something different. And you can always go back to, I sound like a broken record, but you can always go back to what it was if you don't like whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah.
If anything, it teaches you something. It teaches you, maybe I don't want to go down that path, or maybe I don't want to be an architect, or I don't want to do this or that, or maybe you do, or maybe you just go, oh, whoops, that happened. But then, oh, wow, there's a whole new thing that I didn't know about. And
Uh-huh.
so I guess for me is, if I can help anybody to say, oh, hey, well, maybe I could try something different, or if I'm stuck in a dead end job, or I hate where I live, or this or that, or I've never tried a certain food, try it. You might love it. You might. And I
Right.
never used to be that way. It took whatever it took to, maybe it's a cross country move, and then starting to getting into off roading, where we put ourselves way out there because we didn't really know how to work on 4x4 cars. Andy's an awesome mechanic now. He does almost all of our work on our vehicles, and he's learned so much. And I think throughout a lot of that is like, wow, yeah, there's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot to do.
Yeah.
It's just how you want to go about it, which is what the key is.
Exactly. And it's to always be willing to learn.
Yeah.
I love
It's-
I
yeah.
love learning. I've got so many things. I'm 66. I just turned 66 in December.
Awesome.
And I've learned I'm teaching myself. I taught myself Canva, which wasn't hard because I have a design background. I'm teaching myself about StreamYard. I'm teaching myself some things about SEO. I took a course on how to write a course. So
Awesome.
I've just written a course and haven't launched it yet for racetrack owners. Actually, it's for entertainment venues, but geared towards racetrack owners. It's called the Inside Track, Partnerships, Promotions, and Profitability for Entertainment Venues,
Wow.
parentheses, racetracks. And I'd love to learn. And
That's
so
cool.
if you can always be open at any age to learn something new, you just never know where life's going to take you.
I think you nailed it right on the head, is be open to learn anything new. That literally is the quintessential bit of this whole discussion, is just,
It is.
be open, don't be afraid to fail, and just, you never know where the world will take you if you just be humble and open enough to let it.
Right. Well, I can't say it any better than that, Mercedes. So thank you so much for being on the show with me. I really appreciate it. And I definitely want you to stay in touch
For
because
sure.
I want to know where you are, what you're doing, and how can I come and cover you
Well,
about what you're doing.
I would love nothing more, Melinda. It was a pleasure being on your show. There's a lot coming down the pipeline. For people that are interested in following along with my husband and myself, we do have, aside from our work jobs, or he also is a talented journalist on his off hours. But aside from all of that, we cover our own outlet called Crankshaft Culture. So it's either crankshaftculture.com. We've got a very active Facebook community where it's a group where you can come in. Anybody's accepted, because every vehicle to us is an adventure, and we're all united by horsepower. But we also are on Instagram, a bit on YouTube, and then also Facebook. But you can find me via my name. And then in Twitter, I'm Writer with Grit. So you can follow along, or if anybody else wants to follow along, and you'll see all my crazy road to wherever I end up heading.
That's awesome.
No one knows.
That's awesome. I'm going to be following you. So that's great. Well, Mercedes, thank you again so much. And we'll talk again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It was a great pleasure.
When you can't be at the racetrack to follow your favorite driver, log into My Race Pass on your phone, and you'll be able to follow all the action no matter where you are. My Race Pass provides stunning technology to grassroots motorsports for the most data-packed, instantly updated, race-related content engaging all motorsports enthusiasts. Get live timing and scoring on race day with My Race Pass Live. Any My Race Pass track or series that utilizes transponders will have their lap times displayed in the app. You can even check out historical lap times to see if drivers are faster or slower than last year. Subscribe to My Race Pass today and tell them Melinda from the IWMA sent you. Thank you for listening to the Racing Girls Rock podcast, brought to you by the Women's Motorsports Network.